Hi, today I'm going to show you a method of preserving raw farm fresh eggs in a manner that keeps them raw, unlike pickling eggs or powdered eggs. So, it's really fairly simple. All you need is some pickling lime. You can get this in your grocery store in the canning section. Some distilled water, although I have read that some people have used regular tap water and their eggs have come out fine. Other people have expressed a concern that chlorine or fluoride or any other things like that may be added to your tap water could affect the pickling of the eggs. So distilled water really isn't that expensive, so I went ahead and just bought some. You'll need an empty jar of some sort. This is an empty peanut butter jar, been cleaned out. And then you have to have farm fresh eggs. Now, your farm fresh eggs, you need to have eggs that have not been washed. So even if you buy them at a farmer's market, there's a very good chance that the person who is selling the eggs has already cleaned them. It removes a protective coating on them called bloom. You need that to be intact, so you can't use any farm fresh eggs that have been washed. These I got from a friend of mine who I was able to talk to and explain to him why I didn't want the chicken poo and whatever other dirt washed off of them. I was able to tell him what it was that I needed the eggs to be unwashed for. So, out of a dozen eggs, however, I only found 4. This one here is, you notice it's kind of like a grayish green color. It's from an Easter egg or hen. They lay kind of colored eggs. This one, huge. I mean, look at the difference in the size. You know, it's about a half an egg bigger than this one here. And then a couple more normal size ones. But the reason I only got 4 eggs that I'm going to pickle is because if they do have any poo or other type of dirt on them, that's not going to work well with the water glassing. They need to be fairly clean. So I got a dozen eggs, and as you can see, hopefully you can see, so I've got just a little bit of mess on them. So we will go ahead and wash these, put them in the refrigerator and eat them. But these 4 that were fairly clean, we're going to preserve in the pickling lime. So, alright, to get started, what you need is, in your jar, and you can use any size you need depending on how many eggs you have to do. I picked a small one because I've only got the 4 eggs. But the ratio, what you're going to do is you're going to mix the distilled water with the pickling lime, and the ratio is 1 quart of water to 1 ounce of the pickling lime. So I've got a measuring cup here, and we are going to fill this up. I think this jar is probably about 2 cups, which is a pint. A pint is half of a quart, so rather than a full ounce of the pickling lime, I'm only going to need about a half of an ounce. Although it doesn't really matter if you add more than an ounce of pickling lime. It's not going to hurt it. It's just not necessary. So I'm going to pour this 2 cups or a pint into the jar. Okay. And remember, you need to allow some space for the eggs. So I think this will probably work okay. So I've got that, and I've already pre-measured about a half of an ounce of the pickling lime. It's just, you know, let me show you here. It's just a white powder. Okay, so I'm going to pour that in. Okay, get rid of this. I'm going to put the lid on, and then I'm going to shake it up so we can get that mixed up well. Now, even after shaking this up, there is going to be pickling lime that will settle at the bottom of the jar, and that's not a problem. It won't stay suspended in the water completely. Now, right now it looks all milky, but later on I'll show you what it'll look like. So I'm going to gently drop each egg in there. There's 1. There's 2, 3, ooh, and 4. Now, don't know if you can see this. No, not really. Well, what's going on here is that the water is not quite covering the tops of the eggs, and they need to be completely covered. So I'm just going to add a little bit more, maybe a couple of tablespoons more water will do it. There we go. Okay. Now, put the lid on securely. Just mix that water in there a little bit. Okay. Now, when you do your eggs this way, water glassing them, they can stay good up to a year, though some people have reported that they've used them as long as 2 years after water glassing and they've been fine. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to put today's date, 2/23/21, so I know when I did this batch. And I will set them in the basement where it is fairly cool. And then as we need them, we will have fresh eggs available. Now I can show you another batch that I did. No, not cashews, but turn around this way you can see. This jar will end up looking more like this. The water will clear up quite a bit as the pickling lime settles to the bottom. I started out with 11 eggs in here. I've eaten 3 of them, and they were fried sunny side up. Turned out just fine, tasted completely normal. And as you can see on the lid here, these were done in the middle of December. So we're looking at eggs that have been water glassed for about a little over 2 months now, and they're still perfectly fine. So this is a good way to preserve your eggs. Oh, I spilled a little bit of water out of there. It's a good way to preserve your eggs that doesn't require refrigeration. It also extends the life of them. Normally your eggs are going to be good maybe for a couple of months in the refrigerator. So this way, instead of only a couple months, you've got eggs that are good for at least a year. And like I said too, the other methods of preserving eggs, the dehydrating or the freezing, pickling, those are all fine in certain circumstances, but if you're making a cake, and the dogs just heard something. Anyway, if you're making something like a cake and you need a raw egg, you can't use a pickled egg, you know. I believe you could use the dehydrated, but let's say you just want, Sunday breakfast. You want some bacon and eggs for breakfast. Well, with the water glassed eggs, that problem is solved. You've got fresh, raw eggs that you can eat anytime you like. And that's all for now. See you guys later. Bye-bye.